Okay, so hello everyone. So um, today I'm going to share with you guys about why I personally believe um, this channel, Scammer Payback, should be cancelled. Now, obviously, with unlike the Uncle Jack Septicai's case, right? Uncle Pierrego's case is a lot more nuanced, right? Because obviously, like, you know, fighting crime is a good thing, and I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. Like, fighting crime is a good deed, right? I'm not gonna say right itself is a good deed. It's the way how Scammer Payback handles it that I feel like deserves to be canceled, or at least in my opinion, right? Allegedly speaking, you know, that doesn't mean people need to like let Mr. Pierrego starve, right? Or I don't know what to call Uncle Pierre or Mr. Pierrego. Don't know how old is he, but anyways, I just feel like the way he handled it was really poorly, and so I'm gonna try to come up with ideas on the spot about why uh, Scammer Payback should be cancelled. Now, the first thing you see that is that he lies a lot. He actively disrespects the boundaries, right? Or not exactly boundaries. How do you put it? The boundaries of visualizing what are you as a person, right? It kind of distorts the visualization of what other scammers view you as a person, right? If they already knew beforehand. Now, obviously, he wouldn't lie if he wouldn't make this content, but that's a problem, right? Lying leads to hell, right? It doesn't matter if you lie to expose something. If you lie, you still go to hell. Of course, that is not definite, right? Obviously, that is not definite. But this is something I wanted to explain about it. I used to also be confused why lying will go to hell, right? And this is kind of a empathetic in relationships and not actively disrespecting boundaries, right? The right mindfulness and right speech, right? The dynamic. This is kind of like in relationships, right? And yeah, people make us feel comfortable, right? Scammers are bad people. That is not wrong. The problem is how he consistently deal with it, which is really handle it very poorly, right? He actively distorts and the perception of how scammers view him as a person, right? And that already is one bad deed of its own. And it also was not sensitive, right? Instead of maybe trying to help scammers reform, right? Obviously, most scammers probably would not want to change, but you can try to maybe call one or two scammers for a follow-up, maybe try to download, right? Even helping something, right? You are not yourself trying to, at least from my what I've seen so far from the news, I don't think you are recently doing any transformative work of investing into a little bit of farming, right, to help with economy, right, the most fundamentals of economy. So I think that's also like not very helpful for what you're trying to do, right? Hold on, I'm sorry, I ran out of ideas. I ran out of ideas. And so I think that Scammer Payback is, someone I think deserving of being cancelled. I don't know. Could be one of the poor people that I even maybe consider using the Terry takedown brand, right, from Sambucha. Yeah, I'm gonna ask Sam's opinion about it. Can I use that kind of brand to that one? Because I actually want to consider it. But anyways, right? I think that's the reason why I think, because like you know you know you say that stealing is bad, right? Many people you know you know uh, do from person to person because stealing is bad, and stealing is indeed bad, but people use that kind of like social or lawfully like kind of obligations to determine that stealing is bad, not because it was because of you should not obsess over what is uncontrollable, right? Money, right? And then you should control on wisdom, not on finance, right? Finance is a lot more uncontrollable, and then lead by example, right? Or even find something like the meditation, right? Dwell in meditation. I think that's why I really was very resisting Scammer Payback's content so much, is because you don't have any meditative experience, you don't have any farming experience, right? To back um, your actions of fair punishment, right? And I think it's a good thing to restrain, you know, restrain crime, restrict crime, and give some fair punishment. That is like totally fair, right? And you know, uh, my, you know, one of my best teachers in his past life, right? He told a king, right? You know, if it's okay to, you know, chase after gross pleasures, right? Even the grossest pleasures should not be ashamed, but you should be always used to be always be wise, be non-exploitative, and give fair punishment. So here the teacher didn't oppose giving fair punishment, but from how at least how I saw Mr. Pierre Rigaud's video, it seems like he was giving unfair punishment to these scammers, right? Even though yes, scammers are indeed bad people, but that doesn't mean you should forcefully coerce into any more unnecessary or unfair punishment, right? I think that's the point, right? You're not a person experienced in meditation, you're not a person experienced in farming or like with knitting or like something like clothing, right? Doing in you don't have that experience of going through um, something like building houses, right? The kind of like more basic jobs. And sure, it's not, you don't need to like forcefully torment yourself, right? Right? You need to visualize yourself being happy or successful or both, but that doesn't mean, right? That but you can also choose a wise way out of it. And you don't have any of these experiences, and then you try to like be insensitive and actively lying towards scammers, right? And that is something I personally very felt a very strong negative sentiment against. And yes, I mean, you could say, oh, people lie to us. True, and that is bad, but that is bad because people are obsessed. Because, right, how do you put it? Right, scamming is wrong, right? But taking money isn't, right? Right? You want to say, okay, what you did is also not meaningful, right? Should I say, I should say, you know, should I say your money should be not be given just because, you know, you're dealing with a way that is not helpful, the best situation out of like to help these to like help the situation? Of course not, right? But I think that's important because you're dealing with something, right? You didn't you didn't advise them gently about why stealing is bad, right? Right? You don't even know if there's a hell afterlife, right? You don't use meditative experiences to prove is there a hell or not. You don't prove is there a higher form of joy or not. You don't use your resources. If you're on the earlier stages of your content creation, I would say okay, fair, because sometimes like when we're poor, we don't really have anything to we don't have anything to really help the scammers, right? Really help the poor, to help them stabilize their economy a little bit, right? Obviously, maybe majority of the population really doesn't want to change, right? But we do what we can, right? We help, right? If we cannot help the whole system, we can at least help at least one person or two person, right? Whether it's, you can just even pick a scammer that you personally feel like is most respect to you, and then you can just help him back, right? That's also an option, right? I didn't say you should torment yourself. I just say, you know, pick something that is a balance between something that you prefer, like a scammer that you prefer to interact with, and then choose the wisest way out of it to deal with the situation, right? Right? Okay. You're ignoring others persons could have potential basic needs, right? Because usually scammers are usually come for a poor environment. Now there could be it could be true that scammers could come from rich people, but usually if you're really that rich, right, or you're decently affordable, right, you can fend off yourself, right? You don't need to run a scam center, right? I think that is very important. And so this is something like that one. You ignore uh, other people's potential basic needs like food and shelter. That's one. That is a bad deed. You're lying, right? That's two. You're being insensitive. That's three. And so, yeah, I do believe that is three. Yeah, there are three bad deeds, right? You're lying. You're being insensitive, and you're also like, not acknowledging that, you know, bad people also have basic needs, so they do bad things, right? I think that's important. And you also didn't um, explain clearly why stealing is exactly bad in the best way, because stealing is stealing people don't explain stealing clearly why it is bad, because it is because of um obsession of money, right, on something you cannot control. But you should lead by example and donate more a little bit to poor people, or like even scammers, right? Donate a little bit to help them financially speaking, and to help them realize what areas are they in actual good strong work ethic, or like to help them in their basic economy like farming, crops, right, etc. So I think these are the several reasons why I think Scammer Payback. Personally, I feel like Scammer Payback should be rightfully cancelled, but this is only my opinion, like allegedly speaking. So, you know, doesn't mean people should try to humiliate Scammer Payback or Mr. Pierre go here, or like letting him start. Like, please don't do that, right? But I think people should at least be a little bit more critical when it comes to, maybe Mr. Pierre go isn't the the image isn't as perfect, or as a wholesome, or as like crime fighting as he should be, right? So that is my opinion. So this is the end of the video. Thank you very much.